You know why Spider-Man and Batman are two of the most popular comic book characters of all time? It's because they get bitches. And when they're not getting bitches, they're thinking about getting bitches. Okay? It is crazy to me that so many people have this perception of like comic book movies and comic books are for boys. They're like lame punch punch pow pow stories. No. They are melodramas. They are melodramas. They are love triangles and mess. And the best comic book movies understand this. Like, I have my qualms with the Raimi Spider-Man movies, but at least that man understood that Peter is the most down bad comic book character, like, of all time, okay? The reason why the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies work so well, in my opinion, is because there is such a huge emphasis on the romance and the love interest is, like, so well written and believable, and that is a huge part of Spider-Man comics. Even the comic book characters that you think of as, like, the most stoic and badass, like Daredevil and Batman and Wolverine, like their entire stories are about how damaged they are and how broken they are and how desperately they want to be loved. And that is why their love interests are so important. And obviously, I'm not saying that romance is the only or most important element of these stories, but I'm saying that it is a huge factor in what makes these stories enduring and entertaining for literally decades. Because you cannot have characters that are just punching their way out of every situation and expect audiences to care for literally decades. And I feel like the confusion here is because when the MCU first started, they utilized a much more standard like action movie format that is supposed to appeal to a generally male audience, that James Bond type thing of like a singular male hero who has a call to action and has to go on an adventure. And then there is like a little bit of like romance sprinkled in, but it's mainly so that there can be a female eye candy character and there's not a lot of time given to it. But by the time they started doing more crossover storytelling and having all these characters into movies, and they fleshed out their like first real romance, which in my opinion is Wanda and Vision. Like that was the first romance that they actually gave a significant amount of the story time to. You could argue Tony and Pepper, but I feel like Pepper was always such a secondary character that it doesn't feel like it had the same weight. And that's why I think the introduction of Disney Plus was so pivotal in the rise and fall and maybe rise again of the MCU. Because when they introduced shows, long form storytelling, specifically romance focused with WandaVision and Loki, it was like the peak of general interest in the MCU. Everyone was talking about those shows. And it's because you were able to give this like real character development about human stories, not about them attacking bigger and bigger threats. It was actually humanizing these characters. But then we got oversaturated and we started trying to introduce new characters. And the focus stopped being about expanding the humanity of these characters. And it started being about introducing new characters and appealing to comic book fans who want to point and look and say, oh, wow. And that's why Agatha All Along feels like a real, genuine return to form because it's fun and silly, and there are a surprising amount of like cosmic and magical elements in the Marvel comic book world. It's not just superheroes. There's a lot of like that mysticism as well, which is really fun. But there is just also a lot of melodrama and human-based stories, and I think that is what is so appealing about Agatha and why the show has me completely hooked for the first time in I don't know how long with Marvel. So, anyways, in conclusion, let Marvel characters kiss, please.